Alright, so today I'm going to be going over an 820-2936 that after a liquid spill was not seeing the battery, and I've traced it down to the SMC. If you want to learn a little bit more about how I do troubleshooting when you cannot see the battery, I have an entire video on this channel dedicated to battery recognition and battery charging issues. I'd highly suggest you watch that. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be showcasing a new product that I'm going to be selling, which is an Amtech solder paste. So up until now, very often if you wanted to buy this stuff, you would have to buy this big tub. I tried to convince them to put it into these things here. These are just basic little 35-gram syringes. And we're going to be using this instead of my standard old solder paste that I usually use, which was this Kester crap here. I shouldn't say crap, because Kester makes good stuff. It's good stuff. It really is. But this is better. And the thing is, you can't get this on Amazon, but you can get this on Amazon. So I've just kind of been cheaping out and buying this stuff because it was just easy. But it's good, it don't work the same. So we're going to go over replacing the SMC on this board, which is one of my least favorite jobs to do. In particular because, again, I don't know if the SMC I'm taking off of the donor board works. And above all, the most fun part here is that I don't have the proper stencil. And the great part about the consumer electronics business is, of course, that, you can't buy parts for any of this stuff. It's all, stolen, non-supported, blah, blah, blah. And the little stencil that I need is from China. If I order the stencil, by the time it gets here, the customer will long have since filed, their one-star Yelp review and screamed about turnarounds and all that stuff. So I need to make do with the one that I have and pray that after I'm done with this repair, I remember to purchase the proper stencil. So let's go over replacing this SMC. And we're going to take the SMC off of a donor board, which, again, I have no idea if this board's good. I have no idea if the SMC on here is good, but that's what we do here when we try to repair products that with no support from the manufacturer. So I'm going to turn on my air filter here, and let's get started. So first things first is removing the old SMC. So this is going to be the old SMC over here. Let's just get you in the microscope so you can see what I'm looking at. We're going to turn on my JBC JTA, which is going to take this off with quickness. So first things first is to get some flux under it. It'll make removing the old SMC a little bit easier. And the more you make a miserable job easier, the better life will be for everybody involved. So we're just going to get some flux there. By some, I mean a fuck ton. Get my air filter positioned right behind the microscope. So check this out. See how air filter, board. Air filter, board. No breathing of this shit. And we get the JBC JTA on. I'm going to put my air up a little bit here. I'm going to have my air a little higher than usual, 81%, because this is a big chip. And off we go. We're going to start from further away. Now remember, if the board is cold, even as I'm heating the chip in the pads, the board is going to absorb that heat and take it away. So the chip is going to be getting burned, and the chip is still not going to come off the board. So you kind of want to preheat it, and you'll be able to tell if you preheated it because the flux is going to slowly flow away. So I have flux, and I'm getting under my chip. I'm getting under my chip, which is great. But then eventually there'll be a very small puddle of it around the chip. And that's how I'll know that I'm ready to take off my SMC. Now I know this JBC is powerful enough to take this thing off in damn near 15 seconds, but I don't want to rape the board like that. I don't want to pull a wild PCSism and, run up on shit with a fucking Wagner heat gun. Wild PCS, like that place, I don't know how they fucking sleep at night. Like, I get messages almost every week from people who went there, and I truly, honestly do not understand how the fuck they sleep at night. Like, they teach people how to destroy things, and that's their business model. Like, here's how to fuck shit up. Like, there was one person actually quoted there as saying, and I'm not kidding, I'm not making this shit up. If a motherboard needs a jumper wire, it's not fixable. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, do you know how much money I've made off of this? Do you know how many, how many cases of wellness core, not the regular wellness, but the wellness core cat food was paid for off of this? I mean, just that alone, not parts, not anything else. I swear, like, those people are some of the most ignorant fucktards in the consumer electronics repair business. Just make sure as many people as you know. And again, even if you don't have the money to learn, you know, people like myself and Jessa, we put a lot of free, and even iFixit VN, not iFixit.com, the iFixit VN, like they put out a lot of free content that you can use if you have no money available to learn this stuff. We put out a lot of content that shows exactly what type of tools you need, what you need to do, what the diagnostic processes are. So don't, we offer paid tutoring as well, but there's a lot of free resources out there that, while it's not hands-on where you're actually, you know, working on stuff, the stuff that we're showing you is stuff that actually works. It's not bullshit. Like that fucking Baku rework station or using a Wagner heat gun on a motherboard. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to remove the old lead-free solder because that's going to be a little harder to wick. I also want to take a little bit of a look over at this probe point over here because, you know, it doesn't look as nice as I'd like it to, and I'd like to make it look as nice as I can. You know, for all I know, that's why this... I'm not going to look on the board view to see if that's why it doesn't recognize a battery. For all I know, that's something totally unrelated. But it's just good to remove every sign of liquid damage that you see when you're working on one of these boards. That's what I see. So before you even get to using your brain and using the schematic, it's a good habit to get into to just, you know, try to remove all the traces that liquid was there. If you're doing that, then things will go well for you. So let's... All right. So we're in focus. So now that I have leaded solder on there, I'm going to use this beveled tip that I have from HAKKO. And this tip is going to make it nice and easy for me to remove all this old solder. I don't reuse the old balls there. There are some people that say, you know, remove it with flux and then try to solder that SMC on top of there. And I don't have the type of luck required to make shit like that work. Like, I've done it, and it's worked, but then I've done it and it hasn't, and then I feel kind of stupid having to do it again, so... Nah. Alright, so we got this done. Now, the next step up ahead is going to be I'm going to clean the board of all that old shit, and we're going to put the board aside, because after this, we're not going to be doing work on the board, we're going to be doing work putting little balls on our SMC. So, I have my clean room wiper and my 99% alcohol. I folded the clean room wiper, but I'm not using the clean room wiper by itself. I folded it about 4 or 5 times over, because fuck if I want flux getting on my hands. You don't want the stuff, any of these chemicals like the Branson EC or any of that shit. You don't want a lot of what we work with to get on your skin. You know, in an ideal world, I'd actually get up and use those nitrile gloves right now, but I'm not because I'm setting a bad example. Please don't do what I'm doing. Okay, so we're gonna move that aside. Now we're gonna take the SMC off of the donor board. Please don't look shittier than the board that I need to fix. Oh, you have no idea how many times the donor boards I get look worse than the fucking board I need to fix. It's such bullshit. This one, it's more important for me to have flux on there because I actually want this to come off without ripping pads, without destroying the SMC. So this one I'm going to preheat for a bit. Starting up the JBC. Okay. Let's get started here. So we're just going to preheat the board. Alright, so now I feel like it's okay for me to start getting a little bit closer. I hope this new capture hardware is doing its job. Got a new card that allows me to record without any kind of funky stuff happening in the color space. And I also took this as an opportunity to start capturing in 422. Okay, SMC is off. Looks like it was a clean grab. Good stuff, good stuff. Now I have to clean this little pile of shit. So we're gonna put the chip in my chip holder. Yeah, ask David Ritchie's at Advanced Reworks where to get this thing from because I have no idea where the fuck he gets them from. I bought mine from him. And I got some solder blobs stuck in there, and some flux, which is why this thing is not moving nicely. I really should take better care of my equipment. Sometimes, yeah. Oh, this looks gross. That is... You ever see this video by Zif Frank about marsupials? This kind of looks like the inside of the pouch that he shows in the video. Oh, this makes me sick. Ugh. Yeah, I definitely have to maintain this thing better. That's gross. Let's focus on something else while I'm putting the chip in. Okay. Yeah, David Ritchie's at Advanced Reworks has a lot of these little things that I don't really know where to get, and I don't feel like hunting them down, so it's worth paying the middleman fee to just be able to say, hi, I have this board and I need a little thingy to hold it. Do you know what I mean? And he goes, yes. And then he sends me a PayPal invoice, and then I pay it, and then he sends it to me, and life is peachy. Yeah, but Louis, where do I get this directly? I don't want to pay no middleman. And you can waste your own fucking time. You feel me? Like, I want to spend I don't even want to spend time fixing boards necessarily. I kind of want to spend time telling you somebody else what's wrong with them to fix them so that I can go do other stuff. But I sure as fuck do not want to spend time hunting this shit down in China. Like, let that go to somebody who wants to be an expert in that, you know? All right, same concept here. Let's get rid of all the lead free. And it's going to make it a little easier to wick it. Take my wick. I have the wick here. Yeah, I feel like this looks better than my old capture setup. It was worth it. I'm not spending like another $600 or $700 on cards, which is just so I could get dump the Magewell dongles and get a Black Magic and a StarTech one, but there's no color space conversion. I don't know what it is. Like, I mean, I know that there's absolutely nothing I'm doing here. There's nothing I'm doing here that would actually be benefited by color space differences. It's just I saw it. And just one day I saw that the camera looked different when it was plugged directly into the monitor than it did being captured and then into the monitor, even when I was recording a raw video feed. And that just seems, that did not seem right. And it just, I don't know. There's a little part of me that just demands perfection in these things that don't actually matter. And I've probably wasted a lot of money in life giving a crap about things that don't matter, like fucking how something handles a 422 color source from this camera, color space video from this camera. I don't know. Yeah. Sexy, isn't it? Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wrong stencil, because I don't have the right one. Oh god, this is a dirty stencil. Jeez, Yeah, I got spoiled because most of the SMCs I've been replacing have actually been from this guy on eBay that's been selling them with the balls attached. And like, you bet your ass if somebody's going to sell this stuff with balls attached that I am not going to fuck around with attaching balls to stuff. Alright, so yeah, cleaning the flux and the balls is very simple. I just put the highest temperature, the highest air on my station. I blow all this crap away. And then a little wiper with alcohol. Cleans off all the nasty stuff. Or while it's still hot and boiling after that, you can toss it in the ultrasonic cleaner if your ultrasonic is on and hot at the time. However, this is the wrong stencil. I'm gonna have some extra balls somewhere. Like, figuring out the problem can be fun, but this is really just manual labor and there's ultimately no fun to it for me. And I gotta still clean out this, damn. Come on. Let's do this again. This is about as clean as I'm getting this old POS. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna tape it down onto the SMC area. Now I don't place the stencil and then put the tape down, because that's just a bad idea, because it's gonna move around So I put the tape on the stencil, and then I move it to approximately where I want it to be. I'm not going to tape it down incredibly hard. I save the taping it down incredibly hard to the end because I may want to move it as I go. I do my best to not touch any of the disgusting flux that's left over on this clamp. I may fail. Alright, so this is all going to be taped down. Push down. Make sure you're nice and pushed down there. Alright, now what we do is we're going to take some solder paste and we're going to put it across all this stuff. So here's solder paste, and whoa, hey, there's something in there. Oh, I didn't clean it all the way. Mother flower. Mother flower. Get the fuck out of there. Get. Okay. Now, take two. We're going to put my solder paste in there. This little syringe thingy is not included, and I would love to tell you where to buy the extra piece, the extra fine needle for the syringe, and I have no idea where it comes from. Somebody actually sent me these as a gift, and I'm on my last one right here, so when I'm out of it, I'll have no idea where to get this. It's a little, you know, see, this is the end of the syringe, and then it has this long, fine needle that goes onto it, and I have no idea where you get this from. You know, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know what the tube is because the tube doesn't say on it any, like, type of standard. I'm not familiar with it because I'm just a lowly, you know, electronics tech. I'm not, like, a, you know, fucking college graduate, worked at large corporation ordering standardized materials person. So I have no idea what this is. I would be totally willing to pay for it, but I look up syringe thing, and I'm going to find a bunch of them, and fuck if I know if what I buy is actually going to fit. How do you know when you're buying stuff on the internet that it fits your little syringe thing? How do you ask for help on these matters? How do you tell somebody, hi, I have this type of syringe thing. Do you have a needle thing that fits my syringe thing? One of those. It's one of those, like, where I know what I want, I just have no fucking clue how to get it. I should probably put 10 or 20 minutes of time into figuring that out someday. But instead I will put that time into editing a YouTube video because, well, this is just kind of more fun. Teaching you guys how to do this stuff is far more productive, in my opinion, than getting the, you know, getting another set of syringe tips. Plus, that's boring anyway. Alright, so we're in there. I think we're good to go. Now, I'm going to turn the air way down on the JBC hot air station. The air cannot be high when you're doing this, because then the... See, here's the problem that I was having with the Kester EP 256. I'm not going to say it's a bad solder paste. It's actually a good solder paste. It's just not the best solder paste because it has a tendency, with it for the balls to kind of jump out. Like the ball would jump out. Now, in the middle, I expect that to happen because this is not the right stencil for this SMC. Just keep that in mind. I'm using the wrong stencil because I don't have the proper stencil. So these balls over here don't have a solder pad under them. Those, of course, those are going to jump out. I expect that naturally to happen. What I don't expect to happen are the balls that are inside, the solder paste that's inside of the stencil holes, where there's a pad on the SMC under it. Those I don't expect to jump out. So this stuff overall I've noticed is just a little bit more stable in terms of, you know, balls randomly jumping out. I'm at 360C and and 50% air on the JBC JTA. Very reasonable temperature. Remember, you don't control temperature from the interface. You control temperature with your hands. You control temperature with distance, with angle. So if I want an area to get hotter, I go closer and I change the angle at which I'm pointed at it. If I want an area to get cooler, I take the iron away, or I point it slightly in a different direction. And a ball just tried to combine and turn into another ball. That was actually from my bad cleaning, so I can't really... Hey, get out of there. Shoo. That has nothing to do with the actual product. That has to do with me sucking at cleaning the stencil. We're just going to grab that excess. Oh, that actually went better than I thought it would. And grab that little excess ball over here as well. There we go. Now, some of it is not perfectly melted like the stuff at the bottom. This wasn't a particularly great job that I did. But see, this is the good stuff about having good equipment, good tools, and good materials, is that I actually did do this was a pretty bad job. Like, by anybody who does this for a living, they would look at what I did, what I've done here, and say that this sucks. And even though I did a really shitty job, it still worked. Like, you can get away with a greater level of idiocy when you're using better tools than you can when you're not using the good tools. I don't have to worry about how much I suck as much as I would if I was using, crappier stuff. And the ability to suck is a really, really nice luxury, I would say. Let's get those bottom balls that didn't melt all the way. Okay, I'm going to remove the stencil now. So first I'm going to remove the tape nice and slow. The thing is, you don't want to rip balls that are... You don't want to rip off the stencil if the stencil has kind of gotten cold around the balls, because when it gets cold, it's going to contract, and then it's going to rip the ball off and take the pad with it. So I'm not going to heat it necessarily to melt solder. I'm just going to put some heat on this just so that it expands a little bit and allows the stencil to come off without ripping anything. Good stuff. And the stencil just got sucked into my air filter. Great. I have to pick that out later. So now a couple of items of concern are going to be this little ball that wants to combine with another ball. That little ball there is a little too big. Those are both concerns that I'll be able to address in a second. First thing I'm going to do, just to even everything out, since I have every ball on there, is I'm going to put some flux. And with the flux, I'm going to put the temperature in the air a little higher because I don't have to worry about things jumping. The balls are already stuck. And since the balls are already stuck onto the pads, they're gonna kind of stay there. So I don't have to worry about jumping as much, or at all, really. And do this, and the balls are gonna even themselves out very nicely. See how everything's kind of sliding its way into place? That has something stuck there that shouldn't be there. And now we're good. All good. Okay. Yeah, this one could look a little nicer. The one on the corner there could look a little nicer. Oh, beautiful. I think that this is a sexy set of balls. So now we're going to go back to our board and we're going to solder this on and pray that, again, there's a lot of praying involved here. So I took this off of a piece of shit dead board. Now I have to kind of hope that the piece of shit dead board wasn't dead because it had a dead SMC. If the piece of shit dead board was dead because it had a dead SMC, then I've wasted a good amount of my time. And that would suck. That would be awful. So let's see. So let's get orientation here. The orientation of the SMC is... Luckily, it has this over here, which... This is a dead giveaway of orientation. And just in case you forget it, it's put on the chip for you, so you can't. So we're going to add some flux here. I'm going to take my chip and I'm going to try to wipe off some of this excess junk on it with another clean room wipe. And then you'll see how I handle the excess flux that I have on the board there. I'm going to move the chip around and then push it nice and flat on the board. And while the chip is in the clamp, the top side of the chip accumulates, a lot of flux because it's upside down. And I was adding a bunch of flux to the bottom as I was reheating the balls. So getting off the excess of that comes in handy. All right. Now I have my chip. Here's what I'm doing. See what I'm doing? I don't want there to be more flux on one set of balls than another. So I'm just going to kind of move it around like this. I want to make sure the flux is on every single ball. And I want to make sure the flux is on every single pad. Then, once I get it somewhere near center, and again, Apple doesn't have markings on boards like every other company in existence, so you kind of have to guess where it goes, which is bullshit. But again, we're dealing with Apple products here. We're not dealing with products that are, designed with us in mind. We're dealing with products that are designed with making our lives harder in mind. So we're going to find the middle of it. Once you push down and you notice that it's not moving around much, when you vibrate your hands a little bit, you'll know that every single ball is touching the center of one of those pads. Now again, the thing is, I want that chip to be flat on the fucking board. I don't want it to be floating on a little sea of flux. So pushing down is very important to me. Okay, and now at this point we pray that it is in the right space. Because again, these boards are unmarked, so there's no way to know. Now it's going to jiggle around a little, but you have to understand that jiggling around is actually going to be the pad has some space to it. So since the pad has some space to it, there is always going to be a little bit of jiggling around. But you don't want there to be so much jiggling around that you can move the SMC a lot out of place. So now from here, we're going to solder it. Wish me luck that this piece of shit works, because, again, if only you could have seen the board I took this off of. So we're going to preheat the board. Again, I don't want to overheat the chip. I don't want to burn the chip. So if the board is hot, then I will need less heat from the hot air station to solder the chip. You see, let's say the board itself is, let's say the board is like 15 Celsius or something, right? And I need to heat the chip to like 230 or 250 or 290. Well, the board is going to be dragging the temperature down towards it. So if the board is 15 Celsius, I'm going to have to heat this at 400 Celsius or 3 just to make up for the fact that the board is going to be absorbing my heat away. So I have this at 400. The board is going to be absorbing my heat and bringing my temperature down to 200. But if the board itself is at 200, then I can use the iron at something like, you could use the iron at something like, 230, and it will solder the chip. So what I do is I heat everything very slowly, because I want the board itself to be nice and toasty. I don't want to burn anything here. I'm not even close to solder melting temperature. Make sure that my chip is flat on the board. Good. Now eventually you're going to see the little flux puddle is going to go away. There's not going to be as much flux in the flux puddle, and once that happens, you'll know that you're safe to go in on the chip. That flux puddle is not going to run your chip away. I'm still not close enough for actual soldering to take place here. I'm still preheating, but now I'm preheating the chip in addition to the board, and you saw it moved a little. Right? You saw that? And it just moved into place. But now I need to know that the center ball is melted, which is why I'm going to get really close and make it dance by moving around and changing the angle that I'm pointing at. You see how it's dancing? That's how I know that the center balls have melted in addition to the outer balls. Now I'm going to let everything dry. You're going to see all little things around it dry. And this is the part where we tell a little prayer. So I'm not sure if you're religious or not. I'm not particularly religious, but I like to pray to the, to the parts bin God that the SMC that I just drew is a good one. Again, this stuff is not, it's not like I'm buying these parts from Apple. It's not like any company is actually going to sell this stuff to you. You just kind of have to hope and pray that you didn't just waste 40 minutes of your life, That's really what it is. And that's why this industry sucks. Okay, so alcohol is cold, so quick cooling down the chip a little bit. Okay, now at this point, first thing I want to do is see if I'm back where I started. So again, battery recognition, whatever. I just want to know that I'm back where I started, because believe it or not, when you're taking parts off of boards that look like complete shit, that's actually a celebration. So if I'm back where I started and I don't have battery recognition, I will actually still be a little happy. I mean, I would be happier if I was better than where I started, sure, but again, you can't be greedy. So I'm going to put a fan on, and I'm going to see if the fan spins. So I have a green light, and the fan actually spun. So at the very least, I'm back where I started. Can you believe that that's a natural, genuine, honest smile, not even from fixing anything, just from being back to where I started? This is such a fucking pathetic industry. I mean, really. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab a battery. And we're going to really... Not this battery. All right, we're going to grab a better battery. And of course, that's another tradition we have here. So we look at a part, we figure that that's a part that's god-awful, and because we don't have any means to test it at the time, it just goes back in the slot, thus continuing the trend. So I'm going to plug this one in, and let's see if the light turns orange. Mofo. Oh, yeah. And as you can see here, the light turned orange. Can you see that? Orange. Happy. So yeah, that's a demonstration of this Amtech solder paste. This Amtech solder paste is a great alternative to using little balls. The reason I think that this is better than using little balls and actually buying 0.3 millimeter balls is when you put all the 0.3 millimeter balls inside the stencil and you start heating them, two things are going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to see that each one of those holes actually has space for 1.5 balls. So you're going to find yourself with a little set of tweezers going dink, 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 for about 5 or 10 minutes after you put the solder balls down there, and you're going to be taking out all the excess solder balls from the holes, which is a fucking nightmare. And the second thing that happens with them is they like nothing more in life than to jump out of the hole and combine with another ball. Whereas the solder paste, what the solder paste does is it's like in there, it's this paste, and then you'll see it zoom, it kind of turns over like a Pokeball capturing a Pokemon. It does this, but it doesn't go zing and jump out of the stencils. Like, let's say this is the stencil. You have the ball in the stencil, and you have the solder paste, and it kind of goes zing, which is nice. The solder ball will usually do something like, zoom, zoom, and you don't know if it's going to jump out or not. It's just, with bigger stuff, with like a graphics chip or a CPU, solder balls, great. That's a good way to go. But with the small stuff, I will not torture myself with buying little balls. It's some pretty good stuff, and I will be selling it. I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can buy this. So now not only do we sell Amtech Flux, we also sell Amtech solder paste. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you have some successful repairs like this one here. Again, I'm still surprised. If you saw the boards that these came off of, I mean, like if you saw what these things fucking looked like, you would understand why I'm so happy and when anything works. But that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching.